Welcome to Your Ink Story, a podcast exploring what humans have in common through the stories behind the body art folks wear. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, and I hope these INKspirational short stories, sharing the heart behind tattoos, fascinate you and leave you feeling more meaningfully connected to humanity. This is Season 1, Episode 5, and we're chatting with award-winning storyteller and host of the popular Full Spirals podcast, Stacy Parish, who passionately uses her voice as a vehicle for change and for promoting the arts as tools for healing. Through her beautiful INKspirational tattoos, Stacy takes us on a journey through self-discovery, recovery, and the celebration of second chances. Welcome to Your Ink Story, Stacy. I'm so delighted you're here to share the ink stories behind the beautiful body art you wear.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I feel like this is such an inspired idea that you're going with, and I couldn't be happier to be
Oh
a
my
part of it.
gosh. Listeners, I know Stacy from She Podcasts, which is this phenomenal group of women indie podcasters supporting each other. And Stacy and I met recently, and she's been so supportive of Your Ink Story and the idea behind bringing these stories to life. So when she shared her ink story with me, I said, please, you must come on the show and share the wonderful stories and meaningful experiences behind your body art. But before we dive into your inspirational stories, Stacy, please let folks know how you glow in the world, because you're doing remarkable work yourself in the world, and you have a phenomenal podcast as well.
Thank you so much. I love how you frame that. Tell me how you glow in the world. That's just delicious in and of itself. I glow in the world as a storyteller. I tell personal stories. I tell stories of hope and healing through the arts. And that is also what my podcast is about. My podcast is called Full Spirals. And we talk about hope and healing through the arts. We talk about the lessons that just keep coming back, because life, I don't ever say that things come full circle, because I don't believe they do. I believe that our lessons come back to us again and again and again, and we just learn them on a little bit of a deeper level each time. You know, like, oh, great, it's the patience lesson again. But you come at it with all of the life experience and all of the lessons that you've had prior to it. So you just kind of learn it again. So that's what Full Spirals is. I also work with elder women. I have a new series that I'm working on and story circles that I'm facilitating. I'm calling it the Sages series. So I will have compilation episodes of their stories on my new season of Full Spirals as well.
Folks, I'll have a link in the show notes so you can follow. We have a beautiful profile at yourinkstory.com for Stacy. You can follow her. Seriously, get a tissue. Her storytelling is amazing and heartfelt and heartwarming and inspirational as well. Let's get into your tattoo origin story. What originally inspired you to wear body art?
Hardcore rebellion.
Tell us more.
Sure. I was in my late 20s, almost 30, and my then husband and I were trying to get pregnant, and things weren't happening on my schedule. And I also grew up in a pretty conservative family, patriarchal structure, authoritarian. And I was in Chicago visiting my best girlfriend, and it just sort of, it was pretty spontaneous, but it was also a little bit of a, I don't want to say it was a middle finger to my family, but it was a little bit of like, this is me. This is what I'm doing. Life is too short. And I got this little tiny black-eyed Susan, because that's my favorite flower. But by tiny, I mean the size of your pinky nail. Just tiny, tiny.
You rebellion, tiny. You rebel.
I know. It was crazy. Yeah. And then about 3 years later, well, first of all, shortly after I got home from that, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of a neat thing that happened. And then about 3 years later, I started going through healing from chemical dependency, from child sexual abuse. And I decided, and I separated from my family at that point. They were not,
Yeah.
whatever the word is.
Oh, listen, I too have removed myself from the family of origin. Folks,
Mm,
sometimes that's the healthiest choice you can make.
yes. It's not always culturally
Right.
supported, but it didn't matter. It was, it was about
Yeah.
protecting my family and protecting my kids. But
Right.
anyway, so I elaborated. I drew a tattoo around the Black-Eyed Susan that included more Black-Eyed Susans and a ladybug with 3 dots on it. And then I incorporated 3 dots in a number of different places on the tattoo because the number 3 at the time was really important to me. I still love the number 3, Maiden Mother Crone, but at the time it was all about my North Star. That's what I held on to while I started healing from the abuse
Right.
and the memories that I got and the chemical dependency.
Right.
So that was my first foray into body art. And I'm sorry I don't remember the artist. It was 27 years ago.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. And I love the transition that happened, that individuation where you finally put that stake in the ground and say, I am me, and I am no longer attached to the indoctrination or a history in
Mhm.
a way that keeps me fettered. And if I need to do body art to prove that, I'm going to. And that you chose a beautiful flower,
Mhm.
the rudbeckia, the black-eyed Susan, and then you went on to learn that you were pregnant with your child. These are just such wonderful memories. So when you look down at that artwork, you're recalling that
Mhm.
moment of triumph in your life. And
Mhm.
that's so wonderful. So take us and walk us through, what was that when you first got the tattoo? Because this is for those of us who don't have tattoos on our bodies, listeners, we're always curious. Was it scary? Were you nervous? Did you watch it unfold? Or were you the person who looked out the window? What was
Hmm.
it like having the needle and the artwork put on your body that first time?
I was definitely a little bit nervous, but I was also there's something there's something about being with your best girlfriend that sort of emboldens, or for me anyway, emboldened me. So it was sort of just a fun, it was like a girls' weekend thing. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going home with a tattoo. I loved the spontaneity of that. So I was a little afraid of the pain. And also, once I got home and found out I was pregnant, I was afraid of, like, is it okay to get a tattoo when you're pregnant? I don't know, but it's too late. I already have it. Um, so I
That's so
didn't go
great.
into, yeah, it wasn't too much trepidation.
Oh my gosh.
It
And
was more,
listeners, if you have a spontaneous tattoo story, pop it into the comments. We want to hear that. Okay.
I'm thinking you're gonna find a lot of spontaneous tattoos. Actually, the last one that I got, my most recent, I have 5, but my most recent one was a spontaneous tattoo as well.
Oh my gosh. So walk us through your body art, because I'd love to know what the various designs are and what they mean to you and
Mhm.
why it was important for you to permanently ink this art on your body.
It's so interesting because, you and I had a conversation earlier about my body art and how my body art is a full spiral. That's something that we discovered. So I
Right.
can kind of walk you through. So there was the one on my ankle, and then I have a what looks like the Hardee's star on my thigh.
What's the Hardy
Which is
Star?
the little star with a smile in it.
Oh, is that a brand I don't know about because I'm East Coast and you're
Oh,
Midwest?
it's a fast food chain.
Oh, okay, great.
I think it's called Carl's Jr. or something in different places. But anyway, that it's just that it reminds me of that logo.
I love it.
And that one was sort of, I did that one because of peer pressure. I had just gotten
Ooh.
clean. The woman I was with, neither one of us had a sponsor, and we were both just sort of floundering. And she dared me, basically. What are you, chicken? Literally. And I was in my 30s.
It wasn't like you were 17. No, I'm not
Oh my
chicken. I
gosh.
got this.
Oh my gosh. But I always wanted to have a star on my body. But anyway, there's a certain amount of, there used to be regret with that one, but now it's all part of the story, because the next one I got it's a beautiful sun that is in the center of the sun is a circle of women who are holding each other. And then there's 12 rays that come off of the sun representing the 12 steps of the recovery program that I was in. So it was sort of my circle of sisters. So I sort of just kept healing.
Oh
And the
my
next one,
gosh, that sounds beautiful. I'm really gonna be excited to see an you'll be able to send us a photo of that one?
mhm, yeah.
Thank you.
And then I have one on the back of my ear. I'm pointing to it, which does not help, but it's called a helix tattoo when they put a tattoo there. And that one is a little sprig of baby's breath because I work for a paint and sip franchise part-time, and we have the opportunity to create paintings that will be taught nationwide. And this particular painting was called Just Breathe, a play on baby's breath. And once it had been taught 700 times, I got a tattoo on my ear to commemorate it because that one was my baby.
Oh my god, you taught people art? How
Mhm.
to oh my you are so talented, Stacy.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, and what a great way to memorialize that, and I have another thing to research, folks who don't have tattoos. Helix tattoos, I will get back to you on that. You know I'm gonna hop
Mhm.
on and research that and provide a post on that
Yeah,
because we're all learning through our wonderful guests. Why do they call it helix?
that's a really good question. I
Yeah,
think it's
how
just
did they name it?
because of the location. It has to be a long and thin because it's right on the back of your cartilage,
Yeah,
on the back of your ear.
sure.
It has to be long and thin. I'm thinking like a helix.
Yeah, okay.
So that's my guess.
Well,
Tattoo
listeners, if
artist,
you have
thank
the
you.
answer,
Yeah.
you know, pop it into the comments, hop on over to IG, Instagram, and let us know as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can just see some of the listeners going, Andy, it's and filling it all out
Yeah.
for me.
This is what a helix tattoo is, okay? Yeah.
Oh, this is so much fun. And then keep going. What else have you got?
Sure. So my last one is my most recent one, and this is the one as I touch it. It's on my wrist, and it has the word wings and then 3 birds flying. And the reason I got it, this was the last spontaneous tattoo. My partner and I were in Asheville, North Carolina, and we were at a place called Zen Ink. Haji was our artist. He was amazing. He's this Buddhist guy the other thing about Zen Ink, a lot of the practitioners, the artists, they're certified to do Reiki. So they're doing Reiki as they're touching you and putting the ink into your skin. So it's just the vibe is amazing.
That's magical. Come on.
Mhm.
For any of you out there who have had Reiki healing, you know how powerful it can be. And to be getting a tattoo and having that happen at the same time. Oh my gosh. Well, we'll be doing a shout out in the notes, et cetera, to Zen Inc. in Asheville, North Carolina. And Haji, you said was the
Mhm.
artist.
Yeah. And so the story behind it, the reason I have wings.
And was this a couple's tattoo? You both went to the parlor together, the
It
studio
was.
together?
It was. We actually this weekend, this Saturday, are celebrating. It'll be 5 years that we're together, and this is the second time around for both of us. I was married for 23 years. He was in and out of relationships, but never married, and it's sort of this last, I don't wanna say stab at love, but that's kind of what it is.
It's
And
wonderful.
the reason I got wings and the reason I got it on my wrist is I don't know if you're familiar with hand fasting ceremonies where wrists are bound together because we're moving towards marriage. We're just not quite there yet. So tattoos is the way we did it. And we did it on our wrists so that when we do get married, there can be a hand fasting ceremony. But the two of us have discovered throughout our relationship that the reason intimacy was difficult was the same for both of us and also different. And I grew up with a foundation of strong roots and being held. And I never had the rug pulled out from underneath me in that way, but I wasn't given wings. Everything was fear, fear, fear. Don't. And with him, it was the exact opposite. it was more of a free for all. He was used to having the rug pulled out from underneath him. So he had wings to spare. He flew, like independence and flying around but he didn't have roots. So when we got together, it was the first few years were quite tumultuous because we both had this push me, pull me. I don't need this. Da, 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 da. And what we discovered was what we were really doing for one another was healing those wounds that we carried from our families of origin through our intimate relationship. So I have wings on my wrist because that's what he's given me. And he has roots on his. And the tattoos are beautiful. They complement one another.
Oh my gosh, listeners, aren't you just feeling like a collective, ah, that is so beautiful. And of course,
Mhm.
couples who tat together stay together. But that is so meaningful, and
Mhm.
how you two really acknowledge that. So when you look down, you can say, hey, I may be at the tender age of so many decades on the planet, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, I am finding my wings for the first time because I
Yeah.
have someone here holding me and making sure, that I launch, that let the wings carry me. And I love that you stayed with your number 3 theme with 3
Mhm.
birds,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
With that tattoo. That is so wonderful. And at the same time, he is in gratitude and acknowledgement of the gift that you're providing him, which is helping him feel grounded and feel connected and not unfettered and with no place to stand. And
Mhm.
so the two of you together are more than you could ever be individually. And I
That's
think a lot of times with a good solid relationship is that we understand that we bring our individuality to
Mhm.
the relationship, but the actual relationship is in the center between the two of us, right? Between the two
Yes.
people.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
And
It is
so
about
to
it's been about safety too.
yes, safety. Oh my God. I've always said safe sex is emotionally safe sex.
That's right.
Right. And so that is a beautiful way. And again, listeners, just to have that body art on the body, right? So you can see it and be reminded. Because when we're walking into levels of uncertainty or outside our comfort zone, being able to just even hold and tap and touch that tattoo can be like a touchstone, a way of staying connected with the purpose and with your goal, with your vision. Right, Stacy? What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Oh
It's the one thing that I always need to remember, that I'm safe and that I have wings to fly.
my
And for
gosh.
him, that's the one thing that he needed to remember. And the cool thing is what started as an act of rebellion, my little flower, has grown into my having the ability to fly on my own.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And listeners, I am going to include a link to a favorite Stacy storytelling, which will leave you gasping over her talent because this woman has a voice that is amazing. She can just belt out Pat
Mm.
Benatar like nobody's business. Um, but also the story itself will just leave you with goosebumps
Mm.
because of Stacy's journey and her evolution and her compassion and empathy for herself and her evolution. I am so grateful that you joined me for this delicious conversation and shared your body art as a way for us to become closer to you, to have more compassion for our own journeys. And I know you've inspired someone for a tattoo and maybe a couple's tattoo moment
Oh,
as
man.
well.
I love that. Inspired. Right on.
And folks, I'll have a link where you can connect with Stacy and be sure to share your comments and your thoughts about Stacy's story. You can also do it through a voice message to me right on the yourinkstory.com website. You'll see a little mic there and share that if you'd like. But definitely follow Your Ink Story on Instagram so you can see images of Stacy's ink and feel a deeper connection to what she's going through. Stacy, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful ink stories with us. I'm so grateful for your inspirational insights today about the art of tattoos and the heart behind your tattoos.
Thanks, Ande.
You've helped us connect more deeply with each other and our own beautiful selves. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Ink Story. Please rate and review this podcast wherever you are tuning in. And if this episode inspired you, please share it so we can all feel more connected through our common humanity and lived experiences. If you or someone you know would like to share a meaningful ink story on the podcast, please send me an email, Ande@yourinkstory.com, along with a brief description. Feel free to share your thoughts about this episode via a voicemail message by visiting yourinkstory.com. And when you get to the website, just tap the podcast mic icon located in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and leave your message. Until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Cheers.